Have you ever wondered if your ancient ancestors ate other people? Not because they were monsters, not because they had no morals, but because at certain moments in history, another human being might have been the only meal left. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, yet archaeologists have uncovered human bones with butcher marks, cracked skulls, and broken leg bones, almost identical to the marks left on animals prepared for dinner. So, were ancient humans actually cannibals? The answer is yes, but not in the way most people imagine, because the deeper scientists dug into caves across Europe, Africa, and even prehistoric Britain, the stranger the story became. Some people ate human flesh to survive. Others appeared to do it as part of rituals, and one discovery suggests that human skulls weren't just eaten from. They were turned into drinking cups. The real question isn't whether ancient humans practiced cannibalism. It's why. And the answer changes everything you probably think about our ancestors. Cannibalism is far older than civilization. Long before cities, long before farming, long before written history, humans and our close relatives were already leaving behind evidence that they had butchered one another. One of the oldest pieces of evidence comes from a cave in northern Spain called Gran Dolina. About 800,000 years ago, a species known as Homo antecessor lived there. Among the remains of deer, horses, and other animals, archaeologists found something disturbing: human bones, children, teenagers, adults. At first, that wasn't unusual. Ancient burial sites often contain human remains, but these bones looked different. The bones had precise cut marks where muscles had been removed. Arm and leg bones had been smashed open to reach the nutritious marrow inside. Even skulls had been broken apart, likely to reach the brain. These weren't random injuries caused by predators. They were almost identical to the butchering marks found on the nearby animal bones. Whoever processed those animals processed humans exactly the same way. No special treatment, no burial, no ceremony, just meat. Which raises an uncomfortable possibility. Were these people starving? Surprisingly, scientists don't think so. The cave contained plenty of animal remains. Food wasn't completely absent. Instead, researchers believe another explanation is more likely. Humans themselves had become prey. To Homo antecessor, another group of humans may have been another source of calories. The hunt didn't stop because the victim walked on two legs. But survival is only one explanation. Thousands of years later, another cave would reveal something far stranger. In southwestern France lies Gough's cave. Around 15,000 years ago, near the end of the last ice age, people sheltered there while Europe slowly emerged from freezing conditions. When archaeologists examined the human bones inside, they found familiar evidence: cut marks, broken bones, signs that flesh had been carefully removed. Again, human bodies had clearly been eaten. But then researchers noticed something they had never expected. Several skulls had been carefully modified. Instead of being smashed apart randomly, the edges were trimmed with remarkable precision. The facial bones were removed. The base of the skull was shaped. The rim was smoothed. When reconstructed, the skulls formed bowls. Not accidental bowls, intentional ones. Scientists call them skull cups. Someone had spent considerable time carefully transforming human heads into containers. Whether they drank water, blood, or used them in rituals, no one knows for certain. But one thing is clear: this wasn't desperate survival. This required planning, skill, and purpose. It suggests that at least for some prehistoric groups, eating human flesh may have been connected to rituals rather than hunger. Death wasn't always the end of a person. Sometimes it became part of the ceremony. And this wasn't limited to one place. Evidence of prehistoric cannibalism has appeared across multiple continents: France, Spain, Belgium, Croatia, England, even among Neanderthals. For decades, Neanderthals were portrayed as brutal cave dwellers, but archaeology has painted a more complicated picture. In several Neanderthal sites, researchers found human bones bearing unmistakable butcher marks: skinning, defleshing, bone breaking. Again, nearly identical to animal processing. Some of these discoveries occurred during periods of extreme climate change. Ice ages could dramatically reduce available food. Large animals disappeared. Hunting became dangerous.
Entire groups faced starvation. Under those conditions, cannibalism may have been the last option left. Modern humans have done the same. During shipwrecks, mountain disasters, famines, history repeatedly shows that when survival is on the line, some people sometimes make impossible choices.
They weren't uniquely savage. They were trying to stay alive. But not every scientist agrees that every butchered human bone means cannibalism. That's because bones can tell different stories. Animals leave tooth marks. Weather creates cracks. Natural movement can break skeletons over thousands of years. Archaeologists have to rule out every other possibility before concluding that humans ate humans. When they do identify cannibalism, they usually rely on several clues appearing together. Sharp stone tool cut marks, broken marrow bones, human skull cups, sites stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. But the strongest cases are supported by multiple lines of evidence, not just one damaged bone. Then there's another possibility: respect. That sounds impossible. How could eating someone be respectful? Yet some cultures throughout history practiced what anthropologists call funerary cannibalism. Instead of burying or cremating loved ones, family members consumed small portions of the body during funeral ceremonies. Not out of hatred, not for nutrition, but because they believed it allowed the person's spirit to remain within the family. To them, leaving a loved one to decay in the ground seemed far less respectful. Our reaction comes from modern cultural values. Theirs came from entirely different beliefs about death. Whether prehistoric Europeans practiced the same tradition remains uncertain, but it reminds us of something important. The same action can have completely different meanings depending on the culture. Without written records, archaeologists often have to reconstruct those meanings using only bones. And bones don't explain beliefs. They only preserve evidence. Perhaps the most unsettling realization is this: cannibalism isn't something humans evolved away from. It's something that appears again and again whenever certain conditions are met. Extreme hunger, war, isolation, ritual. History contains examples from nearly every era. Ancient humans weren't uniquely violent. They were simply human, capable of compassion, capable of cooperation, and under extraordinary circumstances, capable of eating one another. That doesn't mean our ancestors were monsters. In fact, archaeology shows they also cared for injured family members, buried their dead, created art, made jewelry, and looked after elderly people who could no longer hunt. The same species capable of incredible kindness was also capable of terrifying decisions when survival demanded it. Humans have always contained both possibilities. So, did ancient humans eat each other? Yes, the evidence is overwhelming. Stone tool cut marks, broken marrow bones, human skull cups, sites stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. But the more interesting question isn't whether they did it, it's why. Sometimes it was survival, sometimes it may have been ritual. Sometimes another human was simply viewed as another animal to hunt. The truth is more complicated than horror stories make it seem. Our ancestors weren't monsters hiding in caves waiting to eat strangers. They were people living in a world far harsher than anything most of us will ever experience. And when archaeologists uncover another ancient skeleton covered in butcher marks, they're not just discovering what people ate. They're uncovering the impossible choices our species has been making since the very beginning.